I have compassion for the crowd, because they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. And some of them have come from a very great distance. His disciples replied, "How can one feed these people with bread here in the desert?" He asked them, "How many loaves do you have?" They said, 7. Then he ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to distribute. And they distributed them to the crowd. They had also a few small fish, and they took up and ordered that they also should distribute these fish. The people ate and were filled, and they took up the leftovers of the broken pieces, of which there were 7 baskets full. Now there were about 4,000 people, and he sent them away. May God add wisdom to the hearing of these words.
I would like to invite babies, children, and teenagers to please come forward for this morning's children's moment. Good morning. Let's sort of sit here. Oh, thank you. All right, so what did you hear in that story this morning? That there were a whole bunch of people and that Jesus somehow fed them all, right? That there were people who had been listening to him for days and they were hungry and it was a desert, so everyone was hot and sweaty and tired, because have you ever been in school for 3 days and gotten hungry right before lunchtime? And it's just the worst, right? How do you concentrate? Yes, thank you, Felix. Yes. So, here's the thing. It was a miracle because Jesus was able to feed them all. And there are a couple of ways that we can look at that miracle. One, we can say, one of Jesus' superpowers is that he's able to take 7 loaves of bread, and much like the Hulk can turn big and green and angry, Jesus can take 7 loaves and turn it into a whole bunch of food. I have tried that superpower when I have opened my refrigerator, and the meal did not suddenly appear. But maybe one of the other miracles is that when Jesus showed the 7 bread and said, "We're going to share this with everyone." Sometimes, when I'm hungry and I see a whole bunch of other people who are hungry around me, I don't necessarily share that I have a really lovely bag of Cheez-Its in my backpack, right? But when Jesus said, "Let's take this bread and let's bless it," he took the bread and he broke it, and people are like, well, if Jesus can share, maybe I can share. And so suddenly, people who might have been holding this bread started sharing, and over again, and all together they were able to make this miracle so that there was so much food that everyone could eat and have enough food left over for the journey. And the reason I like the second miracle is that while I do not have Jesus' superpower in the first half, churches have that second superpower. I have seen churches be able to gather together and make food happen for so many people. And you know who else has that superpower? Especially food banks. Food banks are able to find ways to share that over and over again. And do you know when else we see that superpower? Halloween. Because what happens when you go to a door and you say, "Hi, I'm hungry," or the other phrase, "trick or treat," or "give me candy," yes. What happens? Candy magically appears, right? So we see that we are able to feed people over and over again. Miracles happen all around us. So I'd like you to all ask me a question that you would normally ask on Halloween. Excellent that you asked. Oh, well, that's true. It's an exclamation. All right, so here we go. It's a miracle of Halloween candy. Just as you remember that you won. Remember sharing leftover Skittles. It's the fancy Skittles. So that way you can all remember that when it comes time for Halloween candy, you have enough left over and you can share with a whole bunch of people, just as we have enough food in this world that we can share. After the service, we can talk. All right. Happy Halloween, everybody, and may you have a miracle of generosity the next week, okay? All right. Amen.
She came to one of our ministry council meetings back in the spring. And of course, we're familiar with the food bank because we do support them as a congregation. But one of the things you may, hopefully you are aware of, but the reason we invited her at this time, they're in the same journey that we're in. They are in the process of building a new home and dreaming what they want to do while they're there and what that's going to look like for them and what the community as a whole needs and how they can be served that need. So she's here to tell us about her home.
And a big thank you to all of you for inviting me here today. When I met last spring, I said, I'm always willing to come talk to you. I just saw a familiar face. Good morning. I'm always willing to come talk with congregations because we, as Ballard Food Bank, have a long history of really working with our congregations across our community. So I think that much of the work that we have done over the years has been supported by a variety of congregations in our community, but also some of that was foundationally started by, in partnership with churches years ago. And so I think whenever I get an opportunity to come speak, I always want to honor that and that tradition because I think that, what we do as a food bank is, I might be the executive director, but what we do is based on community, right? It's all of us coming together as neighbors, as churches, as businesses, all supporting to make sure we have food for our neighbors in need. I think it's interesting, hearing what the United Methodist Women are about, and to me that is just this idea of social justice and working with one another and helping our neighbors, to me, is so important, and it's really part of our mission. So our mission is we bring food and hope to our neighbors because there can be enough for everyone. And I think that tie between food and hope is so critical. And I see it in here, even, hopefully I'm not, giving away too much, but I was reading here and it's talking about not only to survive, but to thrive. And that's really what the food bank is about. And so I'm just going to step back a little bit because I think part of what we do as a food bank, everyone kind of associates with our name, right? So it's Ballard and it's a food bank, but we are so much more. I often am asked if I'm going to rename it someday, and I think that's up for debate. But we, as an organization, actually serve, I would say, most of Northwest Seattle. So we are serving Magnolia, Queen Anne, even South Lake Union, all the way north up to 145th. Right, that's not just Ballard. We recently added a 7th zip code. We're now serving 98103 as well. So that's, Fremont, Finney Ridge, Green Lake, up to Greenwood. Just another area that we saw that there was need, and we had neighbors who were asking to come because we are a closer food bank to them. And so we opened our doors there as well because we want to make sure that, for us, food access is critical. And you talk about the readings that you just shared and this, Hulk power that I don't know. We're not going to call ourselves the Hulk, but we do have this amazing community power of working with our neighbors to recover food across our region. Have people like you who are collecting food right there in the back and bringing that to the food bank. We have all these neat ways that we are able to kind of power up in terms of the amount of food we have and power out in terms of how people access that food in our community. And it is really phenomenal. In terms of geography, that's who we serve. I also think, though, that we serve what I call our kind of this hidden poverty. There is so many people in our community who have lived here a really long time. Maybe they bought their home for, $20,000, decades ago, and now they're seniors. And the cost of living, insurance, all these things, are going up. We see families who are like, these are great schools, we want to live here, we work in this community, they're working multiple jobs, they're really trying to survive, and they need food. It's amazing to see. I think, we have this huge homelessness crisis, yes, but we also have so many people that are on the verge of homelessness. They're really struggling to make it. And I think that's where, when we think about who comes to the food bank, I gotta tell you, they don't look any different than any of us in this room. It's people who are seniors coming in. I had one woman from Queen Anne come in as a caregiver for her husband, lived in Queen Anne, she needed to stay there, but yet she needed help with her utility bill. And then when I said, you can actually shop at the food bank, we're set up like a grocery store. You can come in, you can get healthy fruits and vegetables, and I took her back and I showed her how to do it. And she came back and she's like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like, this is something that can really make a difference for my husband and I. And we were able to help her with what we do in terms of not only helping her pay her utility, but we were able to connect her to other partners, and she was able to come shop. And that, and then her finding that community and people that were willing to actually, talk to her and respect her and give her that dignity. And I think those are things we see quite often. It was interesting, we had this Rotary volunteer a few days ago. We have a weekend food for kids program that feeds we're now over 526 students in 20 schools in our region. It's kind of crazy. Last year we ended the year at 460 kids. And, usually in the fall it takes us a bit to ramp up, but we're already way over. And the volunteer came because he comes every Monday to help pack, right? Pack the weekend food for kids, which is all the meals that child needs on the weekend. And he's like, I don't get it. Like, how can somebody be hungry in Ballard or Mongolia? And I was like, I go, but it's true, right? Like, I think sometimes we forget. We see folks that are homeless, but we forget there's a lot of low-income housing in our community. There's a lot of people who, like I said, are right on that edge. And so, I think, his intentions were good in the question, but really just kind of open our eyes and go, we don't always see it. It's not always in front of us. A lot of people are they're trying to make it ends meet. And as a food bank, that's why we're here. No judgment, right? Like, you come in and you're driving in your Mercedes, you may have just lost your job the week before. Or maybe you had a huge healthcare crisis. Or something like that happened. And that's where all of you come together with us and you really work to help us move that forward. So I think what we see more now is we definitely have homeless folks coming, right? We see so many people that are really that vulnerable, and it's scary, it's isolating, and they feel alone. And we really see ourselves as a place of trust for them. We also have people who are housed, and there's this incredible mix of who is coming in, and I think that's why it's so important that as a food bank we're really doing what we're doing today, is because we are really seeing just increased need. We're seeing more people in our community struggling. We're seeing more people at risk as higher up policies in the federal level are putting people at risk. As we see, people who are at risk of getting their food stamps, their SNAP benefits cut, that's scary. And where are they going to come? They're going to come to the food bank. It was interesting. I was in a meeting about the Ballard fire the other day, and I said, they have a wonderful thing they're doing around the GoFundMe site, which is great and fantastic, and it's so neat to see our community come together on that. But one of the things I said too was that, these employees that have just lost jobs, they can come to the food bank. And someone looked at me and they're like, I would never have thought of that. Like, there's this time of crisis in your life, something happened, definitely communities coming together around you to support you, that's amazing, but here's that moment, right, that you can also, it's hard to ask for help, but you can ask for help and you can come to a really dignified place. So, I think, as we look at where we're at, and thank you, Kim, we met with the group back in April because I wanted to share our story of what we're doing, but also this idea that we as a food bank are at a critical spot. We've been looking for property for 2 years. We just closed in September on a new site at 14th and Leary. Our lease is up in October 2021, and there was increased need, which prompted us to start looking, but then we actually got a lease end date as well. And that really put the urgency in really to say we have to find a permanent home. We need to make sure that the Ballard Food Bank is always a source of food and hope for our community. And so we closed on this property on 14th and Leary, and now we're in this phase of really designing and building, because it's an empty lot. If anyone knows where Office Max is, it's kitty corner to Office Max, and there's just this gravel lot right now. We're renting it out so we can get a little money. A little few cars parked there right now, but it's a site where we are going to build our future home. And that home is really about bringing food and hope. It's really about building a place where people feel like they can belong, whether they're in need or whether they're there in service, right? Like, we really want to invite community in to be a partner with us in this. And so if you've been to the food bank today, you know that it's a grocery store. We're set up like a grocery store. People grab a cart and they shop, and we hope that they shop in a way that is very dignified, and that maybe if they have a kid with them, that child will never know that their parents were struggling at that time, or that the way they can pick out fresh produce from our Ballard pea patch is amazing, and all these different things happen in that space. But then we're also connecting them to other resources, right? We have our financial assistance program that stemmed long ago from working with the churches, and so we're providing homelessness prevention through rent and utility assistance and eviction prevention, and helping people who have been homeless actually move into homes by providing deposits. We have about 15 to 16 partners that come in throughout the month and work with our clients. They're working with clients from around mental health and substance use, all the way through healthcare. We have people working on like attendance rights and what that looks like, helping them get connected to other assistance programs. We're really branching out, because what we know is, and I should say, we're branching out through partnership. We're not here to recreate the wheel, right? Like, we know there's so many amazing nonprofits out there that are doing incredible work, but what we also know is our clients can't get to them. It's hard to get around, it costs money to take the bus, and when you take the bus, and you gotta get a pass to move to another bus, and then by that time you waited 2 hours and you can't get there, right? So if we bring those partners into the food bank, then people can get assistance. So when you think about it from the numbers standpoint, when we have people come in, we probably feed over 800 households a week, and that equates to about 1,200, 1,300 individuals each week. Our financial assistance program helps people about 800 plus times a year. When we did this partner work, where we started reaching out and bringing other partners in, we've helped connect people over 1,200 times. Like, those are points of service that people can get access to those things that are so difficult to get otherwise. We have a mail program where 550 clients pick up their mail and get their ballot so that they too can vote. We have all these different things that we're offering, and people come in, and the fact is, it's not just Ballard Food Bank anymore. It's Food Bank and Community Resource Hub, right? Like, we are really partnering to make sure that people can get access to other things. So as we think about this lot, right, over on 14th and Leary, what we're planning to do is break ground next October. And what we'll be building is a space that's almost twice the size of what we have currently. It will offer a food bank that's much bigger, in the sense that people will be able to, right now there's kind of this circular path you have to take, but it's going to allow people to really walk in a way that is browse aisles, right? Go different directions and change it up a little bit, right? Give them a little more flexibility and dignity in that shopping experience. Everyone's going to be able to access hygiene items. Everyone will be able to shop in this, whether you're homeless or housed, through the same way, and have the same opportunities for different types of food. We are going to expand our resource hub and have more space and an open, inviting space for clients to wait, but also to access that resource hub. Because right now it's kind of, we've made it work, but it's a little bit tucked away, and so, requires more prompting to get people there. but we want to have more space for partner agencies to come in and allow that to grow and really find new ways to help people not just survive but thrive. It's so well said here. The other piece that we're doing that's a bit different is that we've always had a sandwich program. Someone comes in, they always get a sandwich. But right now, what we're looking at is actually creating a cafe. So we would actually have a space that, we get a lot of government beans, that we'd have hot bean soup probably, a lot of bean soup. But we're gonna make healthy sandwiches, and we're gonna have a cafe where people could sit down and just kind of eat in dignity for a minute, right? Like, that's really hard to do. And they can either eat in a waiting area where they can charge their phones or do those types of things, but also just connect. And then that would be a place that any one of you could also come in, right? Like, you might come in and say, hey, let's meet. We haven't decided what we're gonna call it yet, but we've bounced ideas around Kindness Cafe and things like that that really take away that us versus them and become a community space for belonging. Because we know that food is that connecting item, and it really is that catalyst to getting people from where they are in that most vulnerable period to fed and then into a better situation. So that is one super exciting piece to that we're adding. And then the other piece too is it'll just give us more space to store food and get food out to our neighbors. So with our We Get Food for Kids program and our home delivery program, both have grown tremendously. And that increased need is, again, driving those programs to grow. And from a nonprofit standpoint, you actually don't like to say you're growing as a food bank. It's kind of opposite, right? Like, you want to solve this problem, but you also want to be there. So it's us really trying to figure out, right, how do we do that in such a way? So I think where we're at today really is just this urgent time. We have to start break ground next October. We're very much focused on raising the funds and the capital we need so we can break ground. We now own this wonderful piece of land, but we're looking at a major campaign of somewhere around 13 to 14 million to build the space we need and to really execute on our mission. We're at a point where we're really, asking community to be ambassadors for us and help share our story. I think really engage in this process with us. I'm always open and welcoming in terms of, I'll be after the meeting happy to set up tours with people if they just want to come and see what we do today and learn more about that, because this is really a time where we need all our community, just like you all have faced, trying to figure out where is your permanent home, how is it going to be. We're in the same boat. And for us, it's really about making sure we get that word out and sharing that. And I think also, just as a food bank, we are always open to having you be a part. Whether I see, students in the back who want to volunteer and get those service hours, or people who want to work with us. I mean, we can't do what we do without over 130 volunteers that we have each month. I mean, we have a 9 staff, but we are volunteers are key to serve that many people. So there's a lot of ways for all of you to engage with us, and I hope share in our excitement for this new place we're going. And I really look forward to getting to know you all better in terms of how we can, really work as a community to bring more food and hope to our neighbors. So I just want to thank you very much for having me. Thank you for providing food for our people to help them grow, and I look forward to connecting more. Thank you. I think I was supposed to ask if there's questions.
We get to clap first.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Is there any, I think I was supposed to say, is there any questions that people have? I will be sticking around later. Yes?
It's not the question, it's, I found out that my great-great-grandmother was the first person that had your position.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't know, that's really cool.
That's very cool. That's very cool. It's always amazing to see who in our community really stepped forward at that time, right? And started that, good fight around social justice and helping people connect to food. I always find that really exciting to hear that we've always had good people doing good work, right? Thank you for sharing that. I don't see say, I'll be available after, so I appreciate, Mary Beth.
Yeah, so I think there's an event coming up around Thanksgiving.
Oh, Mary Beth, yes, nice segue. Yes, you know, I always wonder how much to advertise when I'm talking in front of a congregation. What's appropriate versus, but yes, the turkey trot, the Seattle Turkey Trot. You know who's signed up? Anyone signed up yet?
You're gonna advertise.
Not yet. Okay, so I mean, it's a fun event. What better way to kick off your Thanksgiving morning than with like 4,000 plus of your neighbors running downhill, right? Walking downhill with your dogs, maybe in costume. Like, you know, you can carry, if anyone's dressing up as a turkey for Halloween, you could also do that again for 2 for 1. So it's a great event. It really is a wonderful community event, and it's our largest fundraiser. And thank you for bringing that up. I do have postcards in the back as well for that, and so but it is. You know, my Thanksgiving started changing 5.5 years ago when I took this job, and I told my husband, like, it's never going to be the same Thanksgiving because we get up bright and early and we go do the trot. But when I get there and I see all those people come out and all those people in support of Ballard Food Bank, it really makes such a difference. So thank you for all those who've done it. And we're going to do it this week for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
What does the volunteering look like there? Like, what are the volunteering needs?
Oh yeah, definitely. So we do have a great, on our website, we do have a great page about what we need. There's an application on there as well, and I brought some applications with me. But volunteering can be everything from sorting food to stocking shelves, to helping clients as they shop. There's just a whole host of things you can do. I mean, when we go out and do food recovery, it's actually volunteers that are going out to pick up that food, drive our trucks, and bring it back. Our people in our home delivery program, we have 2 different routes, and it's something we're also trying to figure out how to expand, is because more people are at home and need food delivered to them, and so that's another place where maybe you're helping pack those bags, or maybe you're going out on a route and actually helping deliver. And I think that's an amazing program too, because you're often that's that one point of contact for that person and that need, right? And so there's a lot of powerful ways to engage. We recently had somebody join our board. He's been a long-time volunteer, and he told me he volunteered. He works full-time, and then he gets home, or doesn't even go home, but he changes out of his suit and he comes to the food bank every Thursday night. And then he leaves after volunteering for like 3 hours, and his wife's like, "You're so happy." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a community, right? There's all these amazing volunteers, and you're working with your neighbors, and you're helping people, and so it really is a great way, and we kind of tailor it to what you need as much as we can. Like, some people want to work with clients more directly, and other people kind of want to be in the background. So we really work to make it flexible. And our high school students, they're great. You know, they're working with so many people, helping do different things, and the clients love to have that experience where they see people. And I think it also helps, you know, remove some stereotypes that are out there right now, and really providing that connection. So, yeah, so we're happy to talk more about it too if you're interested. Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much.